I was driving my son and a couple of his friends home from school the other day when the youngest of the three boys suddenly asked a question. Do either of you remember what heaven was like? Neither of the two boys said they could remember anything about heaven, but I was so curious I had to ask the first kid, have you ever been to heaven? He said, yeah, before I was born, but I don't remember any of it. Now, obviously, this would be a much different and maybe cooler story if the kid really did remember things about heaven, but it reminded me of a story that I love. The story comes from Plato's dialogue rhetoric, and it's called The Myth of Er. And I won't go into the whole story, but basically in the story, we find out that when you die, you go to heaven or hell for 1,000 years. And then when the 1,000 years is over, everybody is brought to a new location where they are instructed to choose their new life on earth. And when I say choose their new life, I mean choose every part of it. They choose where they're going to be born. They choose who their parents are going to be. They choose what their job is going to be. Basically, they choose who they're going to become. And then after they go through the arduous task of choosing this new life, they are made to drink from the waters of forgetfulness. And when they drink those waters, they forget the entire thing they've just gone through. They forget the 1,000 years of torture or reward. They forget choosing the new life. They're basically a blank slate. And then they are rocketed to Earth to be born as a baby and start the whole process all over again. Now, I do not argue for this view of the afterlife, and I actually don't think Plato was either. I see this view of what happens after we die and before we're born as a metaphor. What I like about the myth of Er is that it says we come into this life having pre-chosen what we're going to do, almost as if we choose a purpose. And that sort of thing, to me, implies meaning. It gives life meaning. As a matter of fact, in the myth of Er, after we've chosen a life, we're assigned a daemon or a daimon. And that's basically a spirit that accompanies us to remind us invisibly, subconsciously, of the life that we chose. And it tries to keep us on that path. The only problem with the whole thing is those damn waters of forgetfulness. And because we were made to drink from those, we don't remember the purpose or the life we chose to come here for. But I think waters of forgetfulness kind of act like Tylenol. You know, if you have a headache and you take a Tylenol, it doesn't start working immediately. There's kind of a time release that goes on. And I think that's how the waters of forgetfulness work, because they don't seem to go into full effect immediately. And what I mean by that is when we're born, when we're children, when we're really young children, we kind of still have a sense of where we came from and that we're here for a reason. And so while you may not remember your time in the clouds, when you were young, you probably had a sense of what you were made for. So what does that mean for us as adults? Are we just shit out of luck when it comes to remembering what our purpose is or why we're here? I don't think so. I think there's still a way to recall that, to hone in on it. But our childhood is still the key to it. And as a matter of fact, let me show you something. Okay, thanks for joining me at the whiteboard. 3 questions that you can ask yourself to begin to see the purpose that you came into this world with. And the first one is, what did you like to do?
For me, I really like cone.
And so that's a really simple question. It actually is representative of a thing that Carl Jung did when he was looking for his purpose in life, or what he would have called his personal mythology. But that's the first question, is what did you like to do? And then you'll do what Carl Jung did. You'll find this childhood activity, and then you extrapolate it out and say, what's the adult version of this? So for him, it was stacking rocks by this riverside. And so as an adult, he's not going to find much purpose probably in stacking little rocks. But he ended up building this castle. You know, that's the adult version of stacking rocks. And it's called Bollingen Castle, and it's in Zurich. And it became this physical expression of what was going on inside him at the time, and became his home base for all this work that he created and all this good he did in the world. And so that's what I mean by take the childhood activity and find the adult expression of it. Okay, so that's the first question. What did you like to do as a kid? The second question is,
who were your heroes?
Who were your heroes? Who were the people that you looked up to? Because I think as a kid, and we have this purpose kind of brewing inside of us, and we see somebody else who's kind of doing some version of that, or putting themselves out into the world, or expressing themselves in a way that feels attractive to us, we're kind of saying, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do, or some version of that, or something like that. So ask yourself, when you were a kid, who were your heroes? Who were you drawn to? Who did you watch? And this is going to be a question that's going to take you kind of doing a little bit of introspection and deep diving, because maybe your purpose in life is not athletics at all, but your heroes were all athletes. And so then you have to say, oh, well, it's not that I'm supposed to be a basketball player, but what virtue, what trait did that basketball player exhibit that I see a need for in my life, or I see a potential expression of in my life? Does that make sense? So don't be too literal with this. We're diving beneath the surface of all of our immediate answers. Okay. And the third question is,
what did you need more of?
What did you need more of as a child? You know, sometimes the things we don't have make as big an impression on us as the things we do have. So when you're a child, what was lacking in your world? What would have made life better? What would have made you feel more whole? Sometimes if we can identify that, then we get a glimpse of, oh, I didn't have that as a child, and I feel compelled to bring more of that into the world. So when we were off in heaven and we chose this life to come to, we might have chosen a life where we didn't get a lot of compassion as a way of spurring adult us into acting more compassionately. And so this is one of those things, again, you're going to have to be able to dive into what happened to you and what you needed more of, and extrapolate that out. Because if you just take it on the surface, it may spin you into a life of revenge seeking. You may become Batman. I didn't have parents growing up, so now I'm going to beat up criminals that steal from people and murder parents and stuff. Murder me! So don't let this turn you into a murderous, vengeful engine, but instead see how it can turn you into an engine of love and goodness and expressions of that thing you didn't have in the world. Not Batman. So anyway, those are the three questions. I think if you can ask those three questions, it will put you on the path of discovering what your purpose is. And then once you know what your purpose is, you start giving it in the world. And my belief is that your life, the lives of the people around you, and by ripple effect, eventually the whole world will start to change. And we can be mad about that. Please, don't shoot. I'll give you the exercise Joseph Campbell used to find his purpose. All you have to do is click on the link in the description.